Today, we're unraveling a truly dark, chaotic, psychological puzzle. We are going to dig into the deeply unsettling story of a fugitive couple and their constantly shifting confessions. This isn't just your standard timeline of a crime. It is a look straight into criminal psychology, narcissistic manipulation, and how two people tried to completely twist the truth, deceive authorities, and eventually turn on each other right up until the undeniable facts finally closed in on them. It's a stark reminder of the devastating consequences when total delusion is treated as reality. So let's just dive right into it.
It's him and me. We killed her. These are the actual boastful text messages sent by a teenager while she was on the run in Mexico. She literally sent this to an ex-boyfriend back in the United States, and these chilling words were the absolute catalyst that kicked off a massive international investigation. I mean, what kind of person treats a murder confession like a casual bragging text to an ex? That level of detachment right there gives us our first real glimpse into the terrifying mindset we're dealing with today. All right, part one. Apprehended in Mexico.
So picture this. Multiple agencies were hunting this couple at the exact same time, but for entirely different reasons. Things escalated incredibly fast in May of 2023. On May 4th, Jonathon completely misses a scheduled court sentencing. The very next day, a local police department opens a missing minor report for Kaitlyn. By May 7th, Kaitlyn is actively trying to throw authorities off her scent. She makes this fake Facebook check-in at a Dave & Buster's in Ohio, when in reality, she's thousands of miles away across the border. Finally, on May 8th, this wild, multi-state flight comes to an abrupt halt. They're arrested by authorities in Chihuahua, Mexico, and handed straight over to the FBI. The sheer chaos of this timeline really shows just how recklessly they were operating.
Now here's where it gets even more alarming. When they were caught, they were driving a vehicle belonging to Jonathon's 53-year-old mother, Nicole Jones. But Nicole, she was nowhere to be found. Instead, border authorities found basically her entire life tucked away inside that car. We're talking her wallet, social security card, credit cards, ID, and health insurance. In missing persons cases, finding someone's entire physical identity left behind while their car is being driven by fleeing fugitives is literally the ultimate red flag. It instantly shifted this from a simple missing persons case into a dark, complex federal investigation.
Moving on to part two, a disturbing history. 32 and 16. To really grasp how this all escalated so quickly, we have to look back at the deeply disturbing origins of their relationship. These were their ages when they first met. Jonathon was a 32-year-old man, and Kaitlyn was a 16-year-old girl who was incredibly vulnerable. She had actually just run away from an eating disorder treatment center. According to the source material, Jonathon allegedly stood right outside that very center with handwritten signs begging her to leave. It's a detail that sets a very clear, undeniable psychological foundation of manipulation and grooming long before any physical violence ever occurred. So what happens next? Well, he was eventually picked up by police walking with Kaitlyn at 4 a.m. in October 2022. He ended up pleading guilty to endangering children and attempted pandering obscenity involving a minor. And to be absolutely clear here, police discovered horrific, exploitative videos of her on his phone. This was egregious abuse, plain and simple. Now, the justice system did try to protect her. They issued a strict no-contact order and put him on an ankle monitor. But those systemic safeguards completely failed. They blatantly violated those orders when Kaitlyn showed up at the home Jonathon shared with his mother in late April 2023.
Which brings us to part three, the first confessions.
Okay, so investigators sit them down to figure out where Jonathon's mother, Nicole, actually is. And both suspects attempt to just completely rewrite reality. It's almost fascinating to see how confidently they lied to federal agents. Kaitlyn feigned total innocence, literally crossing her arms and claiming everything was blown out of proportion, and she just wanted a new beginning. Meanwhile, Jonathon actively tries to cover up his mother's disappearance. He tells investigators that his mom simply went out on a bender and never came back. It is classic criminal deflection, you know? Both of them are just testing the waters to see what the FBI actually knew. But as you might expect, the facade crumbles pretty fast. We get a shocking twist when Kaitlyn suddenly pivots and just confesses to the FBI. She tells them that she gave Jonathon a deadly 5-hour ultimatum to kill his own mother, just so the two of them could be together. Just think about the absolute coldness of that. A 5-hour countdown placed on a mother's life. And when he allegedly couldn't do it, she claims she took matters into her own hands.
The sheer lack of humanity in what happened next is just staggering. After Jonathon's mother was brutally strangled and bludgeoned, they treated the aftermath like they were running normal weekend errands. They calmly go to Lowe's to buy bleach and a tarp. They roll Nicole's body into that tarp, put her in the trunk of her own car, and then they actually went out to a restaurant to grab food. They sat there and ate, with her corpse waiting right outside in the vehicle, before finally tossing her remains into an apartment dumpster. The casual banality of the evil here is deeply, deeply unsettling.
And their horrific actions didn't stop there. They weren't just fleeing, they were actively endangering the public for fun. They cut off Jonathon's ankle monitor and fled across the country. They pawned the murdered woman's jewelry in Arizona and sold a pistol for $80 down in Texas. But even more disturbing, Kaitlyn confessed to a random drive-by shooting in Arizona simply because she felt she might as well kill someone else. She was fully adopting this delusional thrill-kill mindset. And the craziest part, police actually confirmed a shooting occurred at that exact location. Thankfully, the victim survived.
That takes us to part 4, changing the narrative. Let's fast forward a bit to April 2024. Back in 2023, remember, Kaitlyn was playing the boastful mastermind. She explicitly told police, "I'm taking 100% of the blame." But a year later, as the heavy reality of a prison sentence sets in, she suddenly becomes a terrified victim. She completely flips the script. Now she claims Jonathon was abusive, and that she simply woke up to him strangling his mother while she helplessly begged him to stop. It just completely exposes her as an unreliable narrator. She is perfectly willing to rewrite reality and play whatever role necessary to save herself when she's cornered.
But here's the thing about physical and digital evidence, it always betrays the liar. Police found videos on her phone of her laughing and smiling, holding a gun right after the murder. And then there's this intercepted jail letter Kaitlyn wrote to Jonathon. It really highlights the staggering arrogance of criminals who actually think they can outsmart the justice system from behind bars. This letter proves they were actively colluding. They were strategizing on how to shift the blame onto Jonathon's record. Also, she would only get a light sentence of 10 years. Part 5, the chilling motive. Despite all their lies and their constantly shifting stories, both suspects actually maintained one consistent, objective claim. They felt Nicole was an obstacle. They claimed she was inappropriate and overly protective of Jonathon, and that she didn't want them talking or being together. I mean, think about how twisted that justification is. A mother who is just trying to protect her adult son and a highly vulnerable minor from a deeply destructive situation is labeled inappropriate by her killers. And in their minds, that was all the justification they needed to end her life. When asked about taking a life, Kaitlyn clinically stated that Nicole was old and going to die eventually anyway. She literally added, "Honestly, it's like I killed nobody." It highlights an absolute chilling apathy that honestly defies comprehension. There's no remorse, no real understanding of the gravity of taking a human life. It's just a psychopathic detachment from the reality of their own actions. Finally, part 6, the final verdict. So the justice system had to untangle this massive web of lies to finally deliver a verdict. Tragically, because they threw Nicole's body into a massive commercial landfill, her remains were never recovered. They entirely deprived her family of a proper burial. Jonathon pled no contest. He was sentenced to 25 years to life for aggravated murder, and that was tacked right onto the 4.5 years he received for his prior crimes involving Kaitlyn. And astonishingly, even as he was being locked away for his mother's brutal murder, his bizarre obsession remained totally intact. His final question to police upon arrest was simply asking if he could still see Kaitlyn. And as for Kaitlyn, well, despite her constant manipulation and attempts to rewrite history, the court saw right through the facade. She also pled no contest and received a life sentence, with parole eligibility after 25 years. But the legal system's exhaustion with her is definitely ongoing. Even currently, she is still trying to fight the system and avoid accountability, seeking post-conviction relief by claiming she had ineffective counsel.
This intercepted quote right here cuts to the absolute core of their deadly delusion. They romanticized their horrific crimes. They didn't see the grim reality of a grieving family, a ruined future, or a brutally murdered mother. No, they just saw themselves as the main characters in a movie. They wanted to play out some twisted Bonnie and Clyde fantasy and, in her own words, just go up and be terrible together. So it leaves us asking, how does a narrative of seeking a new beginning devolve so rapidly into a calculated, remorseless act of pure evil? The shifting confessions of Kaitlyn and Jonathon show us exactly how far people will go to manipulate the truth, but ultimately the facts always remain.
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it provided a clear, structured understanding of what is honestly a truly complex and harrowing case.